Hi, this is Stan. Welcome back to the Crow's Nest Railroad. Well, today we've got to do a little track maintenance. Well, this is not the tightest curve that I have, but it's pretty tight, and it's one that I go back and forth on all the time because it's in the back, and I'm constantly going not only forward but backward, pushing cars through it. And every once in a while I've had just a little bit of derailment problem in here, and I think my problem started not when I initially laid the track. Everything seemed to be fine, but then I got the bright idea that I would super elevate it, meaning I would have the outside rail slightly higher than the inside rail. And you know how it is. Sometimes you just can't leave well enough alone. Everything was working just fine. And then I experimented with that super elevation, and that's when every once in a while I will drop a wheel and get on the ground when I'm backing up. Full speed going forward, but backing up in this tight turn, it wants to push the cars out, and it puts extra stress for derailment. So I happen to be posting online, and Aaron out at Brook Railroad, he suggested that I check for slight dips in the rail. He's found that that's a pretty good cause for derailment. And he has quite an extensive point-to-point railroad on his property up in Vermont. And so he gave me a lot of inspiration to go ahead and try for my own backyard railroad. I'll put a link down to his YouTube site in case you want to check it out. It's pretty cool. And this time of year, you're going to see a lot of snow plowing because they've got a lot of white covering. So your instinct when something is not perfect to go back and check the gauge, and I've got a gauge block here, and so the gauge is well within standards, so I don't think it's a gauge problem. And besides, I've kind of checked, and the wheels have room to slightly wander, which you would expect it to in the curve. So the next thing was to backtrack and see if I could try taking out some of that elevation that I put in. And it really wasn't so much an elevation of this outer rail. It ended up being sort of a dip in the inside rail. So I went through with my torpedo level. It's not perfectly level. Let's see. So let's take a look at the level. You can see here, well, you may not be able to see the bubble, but it's about a fat 1/8 of an inch high on the outside compared to the inside rail. So I followed that along, checking everything, checking every tie, and sure enough, there was a section in here where the inside rail was definitely lower by almost a half a bubble from the outside rail. And I backed over it a few times, and I could actually feel that on my riding car. I could feel just a slight dip. So I went through with my trusty hammer, cleaned out some of the ballast here so that I could get a grip, and basically just gently pry up on that and tried to get that rail back into alignment to where I'm not experiencing a dip in here. And the other thing I checked is I have a masonry level, it's metal, and I'm checking for rocking this way, not back and forth this way, but I want to see if there's a sudden dip this way in the track. And there was a spot where it would slightly rock a little bit. So the problem area is just past the shaded part, kind of where those tools are on the ground, the hammer and that, and the level. So that's the typical spot where when it did come off, it was bumping on the ground. So I think I've made the necessary adjustments to clean that up a bit. Let me give it a test and let's see. I apologize, my camera may not handle the transition from shadow to light very well here, but we'll do our best. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. If you happen to notice anything strange that I didn't see, leave it a comment below. So I do want to thank Aaron. Great suggestion. Have me checking for that little dip in there. And I think it's a lot better. You can see I went kind of slow, but not creepy slow backwards. And then I could zoom through there full speed going forward. And it felt more stable to me. You know, turns that tight, they just bind on the wheels and on the flanges. We recently took a steam train ride from Williams, Arizona up to the Grand Canyon, and boy did that thing squeal. We had some pretty tight turns as we got into the forest there close to the canyon, and it was squealing like crazy. So that's just what trains do on really tight turns. And for me here in the city, in an urban area, having a railroad means either I have a short section of straight track or I have tight turns. I don't have any choice. So you got to make do with what you've got. I want to thank you so much for watching. Wow, really means a lot. Special thanks to Aaron again. Check out his website if you love seeing trains. And it's the Millbrook Railroad. I'll put a link for it down below for his YouTube site. And I'll see you right here next time.